maybe I can take this experience and use it for good and try to at least put a dent in this thing that nobody's talking about and nobody's preparing anybody for.
Welcome to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast, where world changing spiritual entrepreneurs come to deeply awaken the power within to bring forth their greatest purpose, while enjoying being in tune with all life and real wealth in all aspects of their lives. I'm your host, Daniel John Hanneman. And welcome everybody to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast Show. I am so grateful you're here again. And I've got a really cool guest. Somebody I watched at least parts of 3-4 different shows he was on, some bigger shows, bigger podcasts out there. And I'm really grateful for this man. He's coming out and he's full blast talking about things I talk about here on this podcast fairly regularly here and there as part of episodes is that you better watch out who you're hiring out there in a personal development space, spiritual space, whatever it may be, business coaches, etc. Because as we all know, there's sharks out there and there's a lot of trickery. And so we're going to talk about that today and some of Ben John's experiences today. And yeah, just to kind of break all this down and where does all this stuff come from? Like you're going to learn a lot about where all this stuff comes from in the process, because we'll talk about that too, and how to make sure you're not falling into it yourself so you don't feel like you got scammed or abused, and all kinds of things. So Ben John, I'm so glad you're here today.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. I appreciate it. Absolutely. Anytime I get a chance to have a conversation, a thought-provoking conversation about this topic and anything in and around that, it's exciting for me. Like you said, I'm glad that you caught a couple episodes I did on someone else's podcast and picked up something that I said and caught, picked up value and understood the importance of that. So yes, and the fact that this is a spiritual podcast excites me because I like talking about the misguided mentors, but I don't think I get enough chance to talk about is the spiritual side of it. And I think spirituality within oneself is super important to navigating the self-development space. So we can definitely peel back the layers on some of that. I'm super excited.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a lot to unpack. He is a very spiritually awakened being, and I'm really looking forward to talking about that as well. So, Ben is a public speaker, two-time author, and a host of his own show where he exposes cult-like organizations and deceptive mentors while providing guidance for those seeking genuine self-improvement. I gotta totally check out your own show. I haven't seen that yet. His journey started in the construction industry, where he spent 12 years as a carpenter specializing in building glass conservatories before launching and successfully growing his own home improvement business for 6 years. That's Precision Patio Covers. His success led him into the self development industry, where he was introduced to his billionaire mentor, which always sounds so impressive, right? So, during his 3 year experience under his leadership, he realized that he was being taught to idolize, chase money, and deceive people into doing business. Does this sound familiar to anybody? I'm sure it does. Through his experience, he realized that there is no preparation for the predatory self development space that can sometimes prey on people's vulnerability. So he decided to be a resource to those who would like guidance in an industry that can be complex. Now he is the host of today's Misguided Mentors, where he helps people identify misguided mentors and effectively navigate the self development industry. So, again, it's great to have you here, Ben. Now, you are in more like, I guess what we would say in my space is like you're in more like 3D mainstream kind of work, before you got into deeper anyway into personal development was my sense anyway, and then even tipping deeper, really deep, it sounds like getting really deep into the connection with spirit and however you say it, but into spiritual connection and all the things that are happening with that now. So I'm just really curious about you telling your story to people, what kind of led you to be looking for a mentor. What kind of business were you in? What were you looking for at the time? what kind of got your attention with this mentor that we're going to talk about? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so great questions. And yeah, I wasn't really looking. The Precision Patio Covers is name my is the company's name. And like you were reading a little bit of my biography, basically we specialize in like high-end outdoor living improvement, sunrooms, patio covers, decks, handrails, power screens, retractable awnings, things like that. Um, and I did that successfully, and I was doing that through COVID successfully. And that's when I stumbled across my mentor. And I don't need to name drop or anything. People know who I talk about very frequently. You can always go to my pages and check it out in my channels. But it was a weird thing. I kind of stumbled across. My nephew just gave me a book and by this man written a book. Great book. It had some good points, some stuff in it, some positive messages and stuff like that. But I don't know. I really got so engrossed in it and took his words literally and his guidance very literally, and got closer to him, and next thing you know, fast forward 3+ years later, I'd spent probably $250,000 with that organization and dumping a lot of money into there, buying programs and the next boot camp, the next course, the next mastermind, you name it, 40,000 here, 20,000 here, 10 here. It was just insane, man. And then come to realize, it was just all a scam to me because nothing I ever bought ever changed anything in my business. Matter of fact, a lot of the stuff that they were trying to teach me, the good things I was already doing, and then the bad things, like you were reading again in my bio, was I found out I had this when I had my spiritual awakening, which was a beautiful moment. I realized I was being taught to deceive, manipulate, interrogate, bully, harass, shame people into doing business. And then I realized there's a bigger picture here in the self-help space where that's actually being taught a lot in business and in sales. That is being taught quite a bit. And so I realized, like, wow, maybe I can take this experience and use it for good and try to at least put a dent in this thing that nobody's talking about and nobody's preparing anybody for. So that's kind of the stance I took, man.
Yeah, and I applaud your courage because I mean you have on all the interviews I listened to, you named the person and everything, and that takes a lot of courage, to really stand up like that because those are people that are very vindictive, especially this particular person. I would think might have the proclivity potentially anyway to attack and in different ways. It could be through lawsuits, etc. Right? So there can who knows? It's possible. I know there's been other people I have talked to who have gone through traumatic experiences with mentors, and they're so afraid of it. They're like, I can't talk about it. They'll even if they're spiritual mentors, they'll psychically attack me. They'll hit me, and then yeah, lawsuits could be something they even think about, right? So yeah, but eventually, thank God, like the one person I'm thinking about right now, particularly about this, like eventually, her and a group of people all came out to talk about the mentor, and they did like you. They actually just changed the name. It says, oh, yeah, change the name of the person. Like, yeah, we'll just say this is the person's name. That is the real name, by the way. But we're gonna use, as a reference point, right? Because
That's
I
funny.
think like because it struck me that you didn't use the name, and so the reason why I'm getting on that a little bit is because I've heard you use it before. So I was wondering, like, is there a particular reason? Is it just like, we don't need to keep going over like this person, or is there some other reason why you don't use the name anymore?
No, I actually still don't care. I actually just do it out of
Excellent.
respect for the person that's doing the podcast. If you don't care, I'll talk about it freely because I don't
Okay.
care. I'm not scared of these people.
Yeah.
Again, I've heard some horror
Okay.
stories, obviously being tied to Scientology and things like that, which I
Right.
found out
Right.
later. So there are, and I know people personally who have had bad experiences as well. And I've heard some horror stories. Let's put it that way. Since I started coming out and talking about this, and name dropping and being so forthcoming about it, and to me, that's the best way.
Yeah.
Like, in order to be authentic, you got to be authentic. You know what I mean?
Right, right, right. No, I appreciate that you were sensitive. That might be something that we might not be into here, but I'm totally fine with you doing that. So, because I think we need to keep letting people know, because as much as you have talked about it, others have talked about this person. is, there's a lot of people still don't know. There's still a lot of people that haven't seen the videos, haven't heard the news yet, and they might still be like, "Oh, I love that guy," or whatever, and they have no clue what it's all about. So I think it's
Uh,
important that people hear about it. So
there's a
who
lot
is?
of people that, sorry to cut you off, Daniel. There's a
Yeah,
lot
go
of
ahead.
people that still love this guy and still back him
Right,
up
right,
and
right,
still,
right.
so
I'm
yeah.
sure. I'm sure.
Um,
I'm sure. He
yeah,
does
they're
a
at,
lot. Here's what I've heard, because I think about people like I'll name some names. I think Tony Robbins is awesome. He does a lot of great stuff. He's made massive impact, right? He's done incredible work. And there's a lot of dark side. Like, I mean, it's just the truth. I'm not here to it's not about bashing him, but I know like people are fans of his. If you bring out these really tragic things about him that maybe you learn about him, things that aren't out in the public, maybe some of the things somehow I've heard about, I'll just say. Um, it's like they're like, oh, I can't believe that. But he does so much good, right? They just justify it right away. They're just like, but he's so good though. And I don't take that away from them. I'm like, okay, yeah. I mean, I'm just sharing. This is what I've heard, And so I think it's good that we at least share, that like, hey, these are experiences I've had with this person, and many others have too, usually that
right.
right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, so yeah, I'm glad that you're okay with that, but
Mhm.
so Grant Cardone was the billionaire mentor who I ended up gravitating towards, and the 10X rule book is the book I was talking about. So
Mhm.
ironically, I still had one of these lingering, and I thought I got rid of all of them, but yeah, so that's who it was. In case anybody's curious, I've talked about it several times. Like I said, out of respect for Daniel, I wasn't really name dropping, but that was the only reason. I don't really care. I have some friends and people I've connected with who've had some bad experiences with Scientology and in his organization. So I haven't had that experience personally, and I've said quite a bit. So I'm perfectly okay, I think. But he's all over the place, and once I gravitated, I don't. Some people don't know him, and then some people know him. You know what I mean? Like once, if you've ever like, I think it's an algorithm thing. You know what I mean? Like once you get caught in his marketing algorithm, you're gonna see him
Mhm.
everywhere. And then God forbid if you ever go to anything he's ever sold, even if it's just a free virtual boot camp or something like that, and get your email address, he's gonna be hitting you all the time, and so. That's kind of what it's all about is getting they're trying to get in your atmosphere and get you to gravitate towards them, and that worked with me. And like I said, I wasn't looking for anything, but it just kind of happened that I really enjoyed that whole. Grant's he's kind of an inspiring dude, and he's got a lot of energy and stuff, and like I said, he's got a lot of positive messages. Unfortunately, as I got into the organization, and I became a 10X business coach for the organization.
Mhm.
So not only was
Mhm.
I just spending a bunch of money with them, I was selling and promoting for that company and Grant's message as well heavily. And so I kind of seen that as I got closer, it was really all about the money. It was really the money over the people, profit over people, I guess is the term. And I just didn't see that happen to me. I didn't see that happening to me, being taught to me, and the transformation happening within me slowly over time. And then it was just kind of like that, like I said, that spiritual awakening where I was like, holy shit, like this is not, pardon my French, but this is not who I am, who I want to be. And I can't believe the signs I've ignored over the years as well. So it was a crazy roller coaster of a moment.
Yeah, so I mean, with your background with personal development, had you been strongly in it in the past, or was it more a little, personal development, business coaching, things like that? Had you been into it much in the past, or was this like the first like more deep dive you had done into it?
This I love that question. My girlfriend asked me that question for the first time just I think 2 days ago, and this is my first time. This is my first
Mhm.
time ever being not introduced to it. Maybe I've been introduced to it here or there, but the first time ever taking a deep dive, as you said, into it.
Yeah, interesting. Because I could see how alluring that would be, right? You can do anything, kind of thing. Like you're gonna make billions. And I just listened to somebody the other day, and God, I really do. I know like a lot of people that are more like have these big businesses and stuff probably listen to people like us. They're like, ah, they're just whiny little whatever, you know. I could use like expletives or whatever, but you call us whatever, you know, like they might think that way about it. Oh, they're small-minded, you know, they're not as successful enough, so they complain about us, right? All that whole pattern too. But the truth is like honestly, I've met with lots of people that are successful, not maybe the billionaires as much, but like yeah, the millionaires and the deca millionaires and all that stuff. And you know, that's what I've been talking about on this show. They're not all like having this great time doing their work at all. Like they're many of them are like living a hell on earth and proclaiming their heaven on earth, you know.
Yeah.
That's not totally uncommon at all. And I guess that's what I want to expose. I love their work. Some of them I still like. I'll listen to their stuff still. I won't buy their courses, but like I'll still say they're good. You know, like oh, they're good at that. But just watch out, you know, because there's these other aspects sometimes too, like for you, like when you entered this organization, right? Like, wow. But it's very alluring. What I'm getting back to now is like, it was so alluring. It's like, oh my God, I do have, because I think what you said, there was a line they used that really spoke to you, and a couple of hooks they got you with it, particularly. I think one was around your potential, right? And then you said also there was something about his story that related and it kind of touched into something with your dad, right? So can you tell us more
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah. I'm glad you picked that up because when you use the term hooks and so I'm writing my as I'm writing this third book, uh, there's a whole chapter based on hooks and sayings that I hear all the time in the self-help space.
Right.
And when I say I've been in the self-help space, not only have I been attending as an attendee, I've been publicly speaking for about 4 years. So I've also done some of my own public speaking as well. So it's a lot of reoccurring sayings. I swear it's the same stuff regurgitated. But yeah, so some of the like in that book that I just showed you, the 10X rule book, um, some of the as I was listening to the audio book, I was like 2 years into my business. He was saying things like, you have more potential, and things like that. And that's okay. Like, but I don't know. When you say that framed in a certain context, that insinuates that someone's not living their potential already almost. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So things like
Right.
that, he would say, like, you're living below your full optimization or there's things like that. Just, you're a disgrace to your family, just shit like that. And it really
Just little
got
things
me
like that. Yeah, right.
it got me thinking, and somehow I bought into that. I don't know why I was starting to
Right.
buy into that, and I was thinking like maybe
Right.
I can do more. I was at everybody wants to do more, right? And
Mm.
during COVID, on also there, let me just put this in context for you. That was during a time of like uncertainty. I don't have to explain that to you or anybody listening, but all business owners, even if you weren't a business owner, the whole economy was like, what is happening right now? So
Right.
the fact it had that whole thing was going on as well, and so all these factors, I didn't know what I was going to do, and here comes a guy saying he has the answers to you know uh, thrive in a economy that's dying, things like that. So it was
Right.
just it
Right.
was just all these things. Commit first, figure out the rest later. Another hook. Some of these things are, like I said, it's good being used for bad. So like invest in yourself, right? Good saying. But when it gets used for bad is when now you've attended a 3-day boot camp and they're offering free alcohol and you're roaming around drinking, and now the salesmen are coming in like aggressively, and they're trying to throw that back in your face. They're like, hey, just buy this next course, it's $10,000. You're like, I'll think about it. And they're like, well, come on, you said you wanted to invest in yourself. Come on, commit first, figure out the rest later. And the same sayings that they've been drilling you for days are thrown back at you.
Right.
I've thought about this
Exactly.
and I've been studying this for so long now and thinking about all the things that I did, and that's how some of these events are structured is you attend a
Yeah.
lot and they really try to upsell you and aggressively sell you, pressure sell you,
Right.
prey on your vulnerability to want to do more.
Keep you up late at night, really long days, right?
Yeah. And like I said, just more specifically, just preying on the vulnerability and the vulnerability of, uncertainty, having answers. Everybody wants answers, right? Somebody's
Mhm.
seemingly successful says, "I have the playbook. I have the blueprint, right? I have the key to
The
success."
rule book. They literally call it a rule. You can't break the rule. This is like the rules. You got to do the rules.
It's attractive. It's attractive,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know. And then you get in a room with a bunch of people who think the same thing, and there's a lot of rah 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 going on, and it's a lot of energy, a lot of the same energy, and so it's hard to break free from that and say no. You know, people have a hard time saying no. There's so much I talk about, by the way. Saying
right,
no is
right,
another just small thing, but a huge problem, right? People just have a hard time
right,
saying no, and I think that's the
right.
one of the tactics of peer pressure is preying on that vulnerability.
I remember I was in a year-long program, a long time ago, and at the end of the year, it was an in-person thing where it was culminating, and then of course they have an event towards the end, and now we got the next pitch, right? So and mostly they were pretty good. I mean, the program was pretty good. It wasn't bad. I thought, some of the additional work I did with them was a little different, but but the overall program was pretty good. I wouldn't go against it, but it was interesting. The way they did the enrollment and everything, some of the people are so whipped up. Like they come up to me and when they heard I wasn't signing up for the next program, they're like, "Oh my God, you're not signing up for the next program, right?" They got so whipped up, they feel everybody should be in the next program, right? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, it doesn't resonate for me. It doesn't feel like the right thing. And yeah, a lot of people give into that pressure, right? I've heard that so many times. You got a greater potential. I've had colleagues, friends, even, like who are trying to sell me on whatever they're trying to sell me on, or is like, but you got more potential. I know it, and you're going to live that potential or not. And like you could use that to the end of time with anybody. Everybody's got more potential, right? I mean, it gets to be a little crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's right. You're right. You can use that to the end of time. The fact that that moment you're talking about where you've seen, you're like, you didn't resonate with you, it wasn't for you, so you weren't going to move forward with it. I'm willing to bet there's a lot of people in there that felt that too, but still bought it and still moved
Right,
forward.
exactly.
And so I like that you kind of analyze that and seen all that for what it was. Um,
Right.
because yeah, there's just a lot of that going on, man. There's so many aspects and so many layers, and I get sometimes I get upset when people are like, "Oh, well, you deserve it. You know, you got naive, you got ripped off. If you got scammed, it's your fault. It's all, you're greedy."
On your
Comment,
path.
yeah, comments like that are just arrogant and like they just don't understand. Most of these comments are coming from people who've never even spent that kind of money investing in themselves or going
Right,
into any, you know. So,
right,
and there's more to it. There's just more to it. There's
right,
way more layers that people
right.
don't understand. And so that's why I like talking about these layers as well.
Do you want to meditate and make money? Let it be simple. Let it be easy. Let it be fun. Go to yoursacredpurpose.com and get your free meditate, make money meditation today. Yeah, I think we have to take self-responsibility for the choices we made. I will say that, but the idea, oh,
100%.
it's just your fault. Let's just put it on you only. Like, like, yeah, well, let's talk about the whole thing. We don't have to just talk about how, I created it or whatever, all those things we talk about, but like, let's talk about the whole thing. And I'm not into demonizing people, I mean, Grant's probably again. He's a wounded soul, probably. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know, but you're on to help clarify things in your experience. But with him, but like, I mean, for me, I'm just like, I've never trusted him. Like, I always thought like he looks like a snake in the grass. That's how I saw him. Like and but yet in the beginning, I would listen, right? I would listen because he's a captivating person, right? So
He
you're like,
is,
oh
yeah.
my God, like maybe he's right. Let's 10x everything. And then after a while, I'm just like, yeah, but he doesn't resonate. There's something off with him. I ain't talking. I ain't listening to him. But yeah, so I can see how he's very alluring, though.
Yeah, and that's why he's great for doing that. You know what I mean? That's why he's like one of the biggest Scientology contributors, and that's why they gravitated towards him is because he's a very captivating and alluring person, like you said.
Mhm.
And that's how he was able to get guys like me involved. There's people who spent millions with him that have gotten
Wow.
engrossed in that. So I'm just small fish,
Right.
but still, for me and even running my own company, that was still a lot of it was a devastating experience, man, but a beautiful learning experience as well. You know what I mean? So, but Looking back on it now, like I said, all I can do is turn that into a learning experience for other people as well, and talk about this because it really is something that people just, for some reason, don't talk about. Now that I've talked about it, that type of community has gravitated towards me, and so I realize there is a small community like that, and some people that put all their content geared towards that, which I love. And so I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not the only person out here, which I love that. And it needs to get bigger though, because
Right.
I think there needs to be something out there for, I don't know, helping people, like let's call it a playbook or a blueprint or a guidance, something to refer to before they even get involved with buying a course or going to an event or, hooking up with a mentor or a guru and spending thousands of dollars. I think that needs to be established, and that's what I'm trying to get put in place. That's what I have been getting put in place is like something to kind of just, before you even think about this, at least read this and or check this out, take this course or whatever I'm doing, so that you're aware of what's going on. You can properly discern and properly and effectively navigate this.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of people get in personal relationships that are abusive and manipulative and everything. There's tons of books on that. Why wouldn't there be, books and, podcasts and all kinds of things about this? It's the same thing. It's relationships, right? And giving people a heads up, like these are signs, these are things to look for. We talk about that in other contexts of relationship, right? Oh, if
Yeah.
they do this, if they do that, look out. I bet some people think I've preyed on them. For me, I've always with sales because I've been in the coaching healer space since like 2006, and been in business with being a therapist before that, and with a physical location, everything, and some of the one or two of those people I bet thought I preyed upon them or whatever.
Oh.
But I think what happens is like because I'm different than I was back then, but I think like for me going into it was what I bought into for myself, and I still believe in to some degree, is like some people are so caught up in their own story that you have to say certain things to help shake them out of it, and sometimes that comes across as being aggressive and you're just trying to take me over or whatever. And I think like sometimes I literally did take people over in a sense, like, oh no, this will be good for you. Now sign up. Here's the paper. And sometimes, honestly, sometimes it was good. It worked out well. And sometimes it was bad. And when it was bad, it was really bad. And so I learned from that. So that's why one of the reasons why I'm big on this too is because I've slipped into some of it too, a little bit, for sure. There's been
Yeah.
cases where I was using those tactics. You did too, Ben. I mean, you were in it, like you're using those tactics, right? So it's
Yeah.
like, I mean, we're just like, hey, I look in the mirror first. Like I know I've done it. It's just like also just not to buy into because also now they're creating more people that are doing this then, right? They're out there saying, you're not committed. Like the person that came to me, my friend, one of my colleague friends, he says, you're not doing it. I know where he got it from. His original place where he got all this hardcore teaching. That probably gives away who it is, but all this hardcore teaching. And anyway, but about this, and then he's just like, oh, that's the way it is. Now I'm gonna hit him with it, right? And it's like, okay, no, so yeah, it's man, it's we have to stop these. It's like abuse cycles almost or something. It's just not appropriate.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, a lot of that was a lot of truth in that, to be honest. Before I forget, you said something earlier. You said the term spiritually attack. You were talking about, I can't even remember the context, but you're talking about
Yeah,
spirit being
yeah,
feeling like you're being spiritually attacked. That is very much happening in this. And for me personally, I can't say this is what's happening, but there's a good chance a lot of people have this similar experience to me. But I really kind of thought I knew who I was, I guess, and knew, thought I guess was spiritually in touch with myself. Man, I didn't know anything. And so when I did have my spiritual awakening, let's just call it that, because it sounds cool. um, it was I realized it was like a lot of mind control, like the whole, like when I reflected on the previous few years in the organization under Grant's mentorship, a lot of mind control, like tactics and stuff like that. And then of course I watched a documentary and found out like very similar to other cults like Scientology and Nexium and so on and so forth. But when I think about it now, that is what's going on, Daniel. They're being spiritually attacked because ever since that moment, um, it's like I'm hyper aware now of that happening to obviously myself and people and things trying to you know deteriorate my spirituality and come into my energy and all that stuff like that. And so and now I can see it happening to other people. So I'm just hyper aware, let's put it that way. And so my life is very much different, which is why as soon as I had that moment, it was a week later I left that organization. It was a quick decision. I was like, my life is changing. I realized like so many things. And and I just had so many crazy moments that people wouldn't even believe after that in the coming weeks after that. It was just an insane time in my life.
Right, right. So that's a good lead into that. And let's talk about that. So you got into all this stuff and you became part of it. By the way, you did talk about on these shows that basically nobody was, let's talk about this first, but we'll get into the spiritual stuff, is nobody pretty much was getting any success. People are spending hundreds of thousands or whatever, all this money, and nobody's seeing the results. Nobody's making any more money. Everybody's just giving money.
Yeah, so me as a 10x business coach, I there was a bunch of us. There was like I think at that time 400-ish globally. And when I used to go to the events there twice a year, there was probably like 50 or 80 of us that would show up. Yeah, I know a lot of them personally, and a lot of them are not and have not ever done well with the program or made money off of the program. All they've ever done is just like me is spend money on the next course, that next kind of like Gary Brecka was saying, when Gary Brecka came out and started
Yeah.
talking about it, the way he talked about his experience with Brandon Dawson and Cardone Ventures about that, it was always that next course, that next thing. I had that same experience. It was to the T. And by the
The
way,
next
I
one's
I
gonna
did
solve it,
business.
right? It's like the next one's gonna solve like another drink's gonna solve it, right? Like,
Right. We know how that goes. And
yeah,
I've done business with Brandon Dawson. Matter of fact, the 10x 360 program was $40,000, and I bought that from him personally after sitting down and having a conversation with him for like 20 minutes or whatever, for him convincing me to buy that.
yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but it is that next thing, I can't remember where I was going with that, but that has had like that environment. Oh, that's right. None of the other 10x business coaches are doing well. It's just the same thing, in order for them to hit that next level, they got to buy that next course. And like, oh, well, oh, and that's the other thing. A lot of victim shaming was going on and stuff. So like, oh, well, if it's not working, then you're not working. There's something you're doing, like there's never any accountability, but they love to preach accountability.
Right,
Uh,
right. You need
is
to be
that funny?
accountable, but we don't need to be accountable, right?
So yeah, very, very, very convoluted and just unusual experience. But yeah, to go back to what you were saying, they're not being
Yeah.
successful. The difference is I'm talking about it, and what's funny is I've talked a lot to people, especially when I left. I had a lot of personal conversations with people, and a lot of them were fellow colleagues that were 10x business coaches, and yeah, they're all not doing well, and they all had horror stories too. All of them had something to say too, like, "Oh yeah, this happened to me," but they're still all hanging out in that organization. They're still all in it, most of them.
It's
So
like a drug. It's like a drug. They can't get, they know it's not good for them, but they can't help themselves.
yeah, I don't know. The other thing is they like to believe like I'll just take the good and leave out the bad. Almost all of them said that too.
Hmm.
I'm just in there, I don't agree with everything he says and all that they teach, I'm just kind of taking the good and leaving the bad and all that. And I'm like, yeah, just be careful, man, is all I'm gonna say. Me
Yeah.
personally, I'm not trying to be in that environment and pick out the good, like in an environment where they're, like I said, they're teaching people how to deceive, manipulate. It's just all this um, fake, like networking and connecting with people when really you just want something from them. There's this whole agenda to I don't know. It's just a really bad atmosphere. So I don't like it. I see right through it, is what I'm saying.
Right, right, right. Well, now you do, right? I mean, after experiencing it and being awakened to what was going on, for sure. But yeah, a lot of times we're in that space, and many of us probably that our listeners too, like, yeah, I mean, we just fall for it. We get into it. I just happen to be someone that's really tends to be very good at being strong and discerning about what's true for me, and I just won't budge. It's like, yeah, this is what's true for me, and but I've been manipulated into buying, five-figure things too. And they may or may not have been the greatest for me. I definitely did see tangible results. I remember one of the mentors, I says, I'm more high level than the people in this program. He loved that. He's like, let's talk. It's
Yeah,
like, all right, cha-ching. He's like,
I
this
think to
is
say,
sounds
yeah.
like you need to special VIP work with me then. Like,
That's funny.
like, so I said, well, I stepped myself right into that one. It's in part anyway. And he's like, oh, you don't need much. It's a few hours for like eight, so it was like 5 hours for 15 grand. This was many years ago, and by the way, I'm not a big email guy, so it's just the sessions basically. And, so we do the work, and like literally, I felt like I gained almost nothing from. You always gain something, but like almost nothing from it other than I realized I had too big of an ego, probably, right? I'm like, okay, well, that's my lesson. And then I had too big of an ego, therefore, I would say I fell into this situation, and I always claim it as good. I don't look at it as negative, but I see how I was kind of manipulated. It's like, oh yeah, you're big time, yeah, you don't need much. We're gonna level you right up. And it didn't work. Didn't happen.
Yeah. If you're able to analyze it and look back and break that down, that is the important part. So the fact that
Yeah.
you're able to do that. And the other part of that story is the fact that you are pretty already like strong-willed and able to discern and say no, but you also have been taken for. Goes
Yeah.
to my point that I tell people all the time, like that shit can happen to the best of people. Again,
Yes.
pardon my French, but a lot of people in their comments sometimes it's just like I'm telling you, I was in the room with a lot of people who are drinking the same Kool-Aid and they're making multi-millions,
Right.
far more successful than me. So
Right.
it can happen to, and they're just forking out tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars to Grant Cardone and our organization. So it
Yeah.
can happen to the best of people like yourself and like myself. I like to think I'm pretty strong-minded too, but somehow I just got engrossed in it, and I ain't gonna say somehow. Like again, like you, I look back and was able to kind of break that down and analyze it and see how that happened, and it makes it kind of more intriguing and I don't know, purposeful for me to share that experience with people because more than likely it's happening to other people.
Let's talk about that part of it. Okay, well, holy cow, what did I get myself into with this? We're all 10x coaches. We haven't 10x anything for ourselves, number one. Number two, like we're not even getting any clients because I remember all this stuff from your shows. We basically aren't getting any clients for ourselves. Like that's how pathetic it is, right? I'm not saying, I'm saying the system must be pathetic. I mean, no success. And then it's like, okay, wow, you have this big awakening. So tell us what led to the full breakdown and then to the spiritual awakening. Tell that story.
It was a lot of it was moments like personal. I was having a some hitting a rough patch with my personal relationship with my partner. Let's put it that way. And during that time is kind of when crazy things started happening. So, like I said, this is stuff I don't get to talk about very often, which is super cool. And when it was happening, I was really excited about talking to people about it. And a lot of people just didn't understand any of this because I don't know, maybe they haven't experienced it. And so it kind of felt like maybe I should reel it back quite a bit and
Mhm.
be selective on the type of conversations I have with this type of. So, anyways, the fact, like I said, this is a spiritual podcast. I love it. But that was what was going on mainly during that time. I think that was kind of the catalyst. I mean, I don't know how spiritual this podcast channel is, but
You're as spiritual as you want. We get all
um,
kinds of stuff. Yeah.
so little small things were happening that like it didn't mean anything to me at the time, but then big things started happening, and I was like, this can't even be real, like on this planet. But
Mhm.
like like an example of a small thing, right, is like I was in my garage and like all of a sudden there was like a white lizard.
Mhm.
Like this I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's a gecko and they look like they're smiling. The thing was looking right at me and it looked like it was smiling. It was weird. I've never seen anything like it since then, before then, or ever in my life. Um, I walked in the house for a second, walked back out, and was looking for it. It was gone. I was moving everything around, trying to find it. The thing was gone. So,
Mhm.
and then that's when we started having the rough patch immediately after that. And like on that day, and like all these crazy things started happening. I started having like a specific dream. A friend of mine in London had the same dream. He called me and like it was crazy. Next thing you know, we had the same dream like a couple weeks later. It was really wild, man. Like people hear me talk, like if you heard me talking about this, you probably think I'm full of it, right? And I'm making this stuff up, but
Not on this channel. You're in the right place.
that's awesome. So next thing you know, I'm flying him out here to where I live to meet him. I've never met him in person. He's in London. I've only met him online. He's been a friend of mine, and we hung out for a week. He stayed here for a week, and then like a couple days before he left, we went to the beach because that's where the we were having a dream. We had a dream of us being on the beach, and he's a former like boxer, like bare knuckle boxer, like a
Hmm.
very illegal underground type of guy who's
Oh
been
wow.
reformed and all that, long ago, like 15 years ago type
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Super cool guy, very down to earth, got a big heart and stuff like that. So in the dream, me and him he was showing me how to spar and things like that. And it was just so vivid, man. And so we did that, bought all the gear and started doing that and kind of just like acted out this vision we had. And then just crazy things like we were there all day from 6 in the morning, watched the sunrise in the same spot, didn't move. The
Mhm.
beach was all to ourselves, clear beach. And around noontime, all of a sudden, like this red pallet floated up on shore. None of us seen where it came from. The thing was painted bright red. You couldn't miss it. We took like a closer look at it. Me and my daughter, she was there. This was just like a couple years ago, so she was 10 and a half-ish. Um, it had a word on it that said inalienable, and so we started looking it up, and it meant something spiritually, like spiritual energy couldn't be taken or given, or it was just such a meaningful moment for me and him because all these things were happening at this moment. Oh, and then I've learned that crate actually, in fact, came from London as well, or came from the UK. So the fact that something floated all the way from the UK and showed up at the exact moment where my friend James had been to the United States for his first time ever in his life, it was crazy too. So all these little things were like, I don't know. But that was just one example. I probably had a dozen weird things like that happen in a month's time, when it comes to like spirituality moments. And like I had a moment with my daughter where I was explaining to her a story, and all of a sudden I realized I had actually drawn this picture when I was like 10 or 12 myself. And so it was like this crazy connection where like I'd forgotten I'd drawn that picture until I explained that story to her. It's so crazy. So a lot of spiritual things like that were happening. Let's put it that way, Daniel.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, on this show, it doesn't sound as crazy as you think at all. I mean, most people, a lot of listeners, most of them, I would say, probably have had those type of experiences. Maybe not at that rate all the time, but in
Yeah.
30 days or whatever. But a lot of people have had those type of experiences, and I've definitely had a lot of experiences with all kinds of stuff. And um, I was talking about when I was doing hypnosis with people, I mind meld with their subconscious. I'd be in there together with them and all this stuff. And what's fun is like when you start consciously playing with that stuff. And I guess for me, some of it I still play around with sometimes, but there is also, that's all just part of like your spiritual awakening, like you said. So you've got it nailed, and it's sort of like almost sometimes it's just like the initiation, like
Yeah.
wow, they're happening. I didn't even know these things are possible or even real, right? And then like then you start to have more and more realization and more I don't know what to say, but like everything starts to clear all the things you need to clear inside your energy and your life and everything. Like it starts guiding you in those directions too. And it just has once you trust that life force that's coming through you, to just do what it wants to do more and let go more, like more cool things happen in a sense. It's how I've experienced it too. So
Yeah.
that's really awesome that you've shared that. I know it sounded like it's a little uncomfortable for you to share, but it's good that you're sharing those more
It's
now.
not it's not uncomfortable. It's I haven't talked about those moments in a while. Like I said, I'm just selective with who I talk about because
Okay.
like I said, some people don't believe in that or think that it's a religious thing and I'm being
Okay.
all godly or something like that. Or, a lot of people
Sure.
think a lot of people haven't experienced anything like that. As I was 40 years
Right.
old. This was just 2 years ago. I was 40 years old when all this happened to me. I have never experienced anything like that in my entire life. And I haven't since
Yeah.
then. So I hope I do. That was such a beautiful time
Right.
in my life.
Right.
And like you said, it was the initiation and it was such a flow state, if you will, of awakening. And it really just changed my entire way of living. I didn't even answer your question though, because the moment that got me to wake up to Grant, I was just kind of giving an example because I was kind of getting hit with these type of moments over and over and over. And then I remember this random moment, I guess, where I was in the closet and it felt like I can't even explain this. I've talked about this moment so many times and I don't know how else to explain this. It felt like someone literally like was telling me to let go of everything. Like it's the
Yeah.
best way I could explain it. But it wasn't just like someone was telling me, it was like a feeling. It was like
Hmm.
an empowering feeling, a message in the form of a feeling. That's a great, I've never even explained it like that, but maybe that's a better way of explaining it. Um,
Hmm.
and so I took that quite literally. And when I like let go, if you will, of everything, I let go of everything. Just like I just let go of caring at the moment, like wanting to know, wanting answers, wanting to be right or wrong, wanting like worrying and doubting and like being concerned, like wanting money, like any possible thing you could ever think. I just literally, it was off the table. And then that's when I even started having more and more things, just crazy things, just miraculous things happening to me after that. And so, like I said, just a series of weeks, just bam, 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 all these things happening. And then I realized, obviously, there is more to this life than what
Right.
most people think there is. And unfortunately,
Right.
you know, that's where this ties in with what I'm talking about is the whole money and ego and pride and all that stuff that blinds us to this truth. That is
Right.
being promoted in the self-help space and the idolizing and all that stuff. And so that's where spirituality is tied into what I'm talking about and the awareness I'm trying to bring in the self-help space, if that makes sense.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, the personal development is often like the training ground for you to ultimately, I mean, it can be a tool that leads you into the deeper dimensions of spirituality because you start to see the shifts and the good in it, but also you start to see if you look at the industry, you see like, okay, wow, this doesn't feel right though, right? And it helps you to it breaks down, yeah, like you said, it breaks, you said it in your way, but it breaks down the ego structure around the money, around what we've been told is success and all this stuff. And you start to realize, man, there's something far more amazing going on and than these mentors are talking about, often. There's
Yeah.
something that we can tap into. Yeah.
They'll use that too, though, the a lot of them, and I think you brought that up earlier, a lot of them will try to claim spirituality or
Sure.
claim religious stances and
Sure.
you know, um, That's where it gets tricky and complex. And I'm a huge since that experience, I'm a huge person now on intuition and reading energy and just kind of because sometimes you can look too far into something and then really the best way to kind of just see things for what they are is really just pay attention to your own energy and intuition and just simplify it. You know what I'm saying?
Right, exactly.
And a lot of people have a hard time doing that, I think. And that's one of the beautiful, one of the benefits of, like I said, me having going through that now. I feel like I'm able to do that now.
That's great. Well, that's great. Right now, what you're doing is that you're doing this work of helping people realize that there's these mentors out there that might be misguided and maybe leading them down paths they may not want to go down, and you're helping with that. And I know that you have actually created a book around it, right?
So I'm actually in the pro. So I wrote a book a few years ago. Unfortunately, I wrote that book when it talks about how I got into mentorship with Grant Cardone, but the first half of the book also just talks about my story, kind of getting into business and growing up as a child, because there's a lot more
Mhm.
to me than the business aspect. And so it's a good read. But when it gets into the business part of it, some of the things that I talk about in there, actually, I'm not in alignment with anymore. So it's kind of a good thing that I write this third book I'm coming out with because it'll be a juxtaposition of um, who I was, where I'm at now, and the different, the clear differences. Let's put it that way. But yeah, the second book I did, they're actually right behind me. So that one right there was actually a collaboration, Dear Younger Me, with 14 other authors, and that was the first chance I got to really talk about a little bit about my experience on what we're talking about now and really open up after my awakening. Let's put it that way.
Mhm. It says here you have there's the new book called The Misguided Mentor, or
That
is
was
that
my
the new
first
book?
one. That's the first book. And
Oh,
then
okay.
Dear Younger Me was we did that last year. That was published. And then I'm working on a third book right now called Today's Misguided Mentors. And so Today's Misguided Mentors, like I said, is going to be kind of the juxtaposition book for the Misguided Mentors. So it's going to be really good because it's more of kind of like that guidebook, more of kind of like breaking down things chapter by chapter, you know, different things. We talking about success in others, idolizing the guru, the network agenda, ignoring signs within yourself, things like that. There's just I think I got 30 plus chapters bringing to the table on that one, so it's going to be definitely my favorite and most helpful for people on a serious topic that, like I said, is super important that I think, and it sounds like you think as well.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Totally. So if people want to reach out to you or gain more from you, what are the best ways to do that?
It's pretty simple. Just I'm pretty active on Instagram, Benjamin John MIC. Uh, Facebook, Ben's Massive Impact is the name of that Facebook channel. And then, of course, my YouTube channel, I'm going to start kicking that back off. Hopefully, I'll be able to. The plan was to turn that into much like this right here, a interview type podcast channel, which I will be doing. So that's called Today's Misguided Mentors, which is going to be the title of my next book as well. So keep your eyes peeled for any of that stuff. But yeah, anybody can contact me at any of those pages.
Okay, great. And I was just curious, you still do the your other business, the patio stuff?
So sad story is I actually collapsed that company, and that's part of kind of the unfortunate, decision I made of investing so much with Grant and just getting
Mhm.
so engrossed in that. I still get, I kind of sold it, but get very little compared to what I used to get when I was actually running full speed. I had like 6 to 10 employees, so I had a few crews running at one point and doing really well. So unfortunately not, but that's okay. There's some stuff on the horizon as far as, a type of business like that. I still got massive impact and I have my training curriculum, But I put that on the back burner for now because a lot of the courses that I did are not in alignment with me as well. And so I got to get back into the studio and re-record some of those. So there's some stuff in the works.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, that's interesting because yeah, you said your business was actually really taken off when you met Grant, and then so it is interesting, what unfolds. But the way I see it for you, we'll talk about that in this next segment. But yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing a little bit about some of my insights on it. But so we're getting into the part of the show where we like to tune in with the guests. So it's called the Energy Scan segment. So I'm going to do some downloads of whatever comes through me that I'm seeing your energy or any messages that just come through to share with you. And looking forward to that. And but yeah, I mean, the first thing I just wanted to say off of what you were saying is just that well, actually, I'm going to go to earlier in the show because that's what keeps getting my attention. I said, okay, this guest is a really awakened person. And the thing is you have been deeply awakened, but the digestion, this is good for the audience to be reminded of even if they've heard it before, but the digestion of these spiritual awakenings is what's the big key. Because once the door opens, it's like, whoa, and then all of a sudden, because it's so different, part of the psyche starts to collapse and starts to shrink it back down, right? And that's what I'm seeing. I just wanted to share that insight with you. Like that's what I see is part of what has happened there. And so it's all good though. I mean, like everything's in other words, like everything that's happened on your path, getting to what I was going to talk about, is like everything is sort of divinely orchestrated in a way at the same time because like if you didn't have Grant, you may not have had that 30 days worth of opening, right? Like, who
Right.
knows? We don't know. We just don't know either way, right? But I'm just saying we don't know. It may have helped lead to that, right? So it's really interesting. It's not the like I'm saying like it's good he does this. I'm just saying like it could have led to that. It's interesting to think about. And so what I see, if you just give me a moment to tune in around some of this stuff. A few messages for Ben today. Um, yeah, I just, I feel like it's a guy thing too, right? We gotta be tough, we gotta be persuasive, we gotta be like this, we gotta be like that, right? And so what I get with you is you've had to build that up because I'm a very sensitive person, right? So I can relate to this about you. But so you've got all that, but then there's this deep, sensitive, softer side, right? And so so it's challenging, as men. It's like, man, because probably some stuff has happened in your life where that's been, abuse, violation, even earlier in life, right? So, so with that happening, it's like there's there's like to open up to the deeper sensitive side fully, really letting go and really getting into that connection is very hard sometimes because it's not safe. It's the whole not safe thing. And so that's kind of one of the things I was picking up. And then I'm going to share just one more insight, and then you could comment on everything. All right. And what your sense of it all is. Okay, hold on. Let me just tune in for a sec. Yeah, so I mean, I really feel you do have that signature of being able to be that master spiritual teacher. But you're shedding like some of this old snakeskin, quite frankly. Like it's like a snakeskin. It's like gotta let go of some of these layers I built up to protect myself so I can actually just be the spiritual guide and teacher that I am and trusting that fully and letting that, guide the way and trusting it. Because part of you still doesn't fully like trust it, is what I'm hearing. Like I don't trust that stuff completely. Like I do, yeah, I know it's realness to it, but I don't know, like go all the way. Like that's what I'm hearing the energy. So the more that comes out, though, you're definitely like when you say, "Oh, I'm revamping this," like you're totally going to have new revolutionary ideas. Like, so that's fine. I think that's fine as a spiritual guide. I used to have this belief, now I have that belief, or in life. even for everybody, but like for a spiritual teacher, even like you would think like you got to perfect it. It's got to be perfect. No, this is where this is a lens you see right now. It's going to benefit people. Then you may have a new lens later. Like, okay, 6 months later, I've got a new lens, and it's fine. It's like, listen, I keep growing. I'm not misguiding you. I've told you all along. I'm probably evolve. I probably have new viewpoints eventually, potentially, and here it is, right? So that's what I'm getting to share with you too. Is like it's okay to just. I know you know it's okay, but like I'm just letting you know just doubling down on it, right? Like it's okay to keep evolving these viewpoints. I think that's important for everybody to hear too. So, Ben, any quick thoughts and reflections, comments on what came through?
Well, I mean, yeah, that's interesting. You were talking about like layers built up and like it's hard for guys to open up and because it's not safe and stuff like that. 100%. A lot of dudes go through that. A lot of guys go through that. Yeah, thankfully my girlfriend's really good for helping me tap into that side of myself because yeah, like you mentioned earlier, I did have kind of a hard upbringing, if you will. And I talk about that in the Misguided Mentor, and so that's kind of a nice thing that people will learn about me is growing up with a lot of there was abuse and there's a lot of things that and the reason I talk about that in the book and why I'm mentioning it right now is because it played a factor in how guys like Grant were able to actually kind of infiltrate my thought process and kind of get me to adopt their mindset. So
Mhm.
um, it's a fascinating thing for one. You get to just kind of learn that about me, but it's important to know how that plays a factor, not only in me, but just in most men and a lot of guys that go through certain things that all affect their decision making later on in life, and especially if they go into business.
Right.
But yeah, go back to what you said. I'm still learning to do that too. The layers and all that. For the most part, I've you know come out of the cocoon quite a bit, but maybe I wanted to mention something before I forgot, but you were talking about I don't know something to the effect of like when I was going through the flow state, it's and why it's not happening as much now, maybe. And I can't remember what you were saying at this moment, but it's it's a different thing. I can't remember what you said. I lost it now. I wish I would have wrote that. I was jotting notes down,
No, no,
but
what I was getting is that it can be so phenomenal and so like kind of unbelievable to another part of your psyche that just that starts to like it starts to kind of shut it down.
oh,
Like
right. It's kind of
right.
overwhelming, I guess, is what you're saying,
Yeah, yeah, it's overwhelming to the psyche. Like, wait a minute, wait,
because
we
it's
don't
so
operate like
new.
this. Yeah, right.
Right. Yeah. And I resonate with that. And that makes 100% sense. And that's why me looking back on it now, it's like I was totally engrossed in it at the time. But now it seems like it's so far gone. Now it's been like, a couple of years or a year and a half or whatever. Um, but I'm very aware that like it feels like, in respect to the spirituality part of this, it seems like it's finding a healthy balance between living in reality and as they refer to what the fifth element or that whole other dimension, if you will, that other people just aren't tapped into. It takes
hmm
a lot of effort to actually get tapped into and trying to stay balanced between the two, if you will. I don't know if that makes sense. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. I mean the balance of being people might call it fifth dimensional living and the 3D living and stuff like that, and really
Yes.
integrating all of it, right? And so yeah, so becoming more unbound and more open and integrating that, but then you at the same time integrating being grounded in your body, integrating the 3D sense of life too as well, just to use some terms, but like, yeah, so I totally get what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, that just reminded me of so that's my feedback on some of the downloads that you got, but I appreciate you
Yeah. Yeah.
dropping
It's
that
always,
on me.
there's always more layers too. Us guys are like, nah, I already got that one kicked in. But trust me, there's more. There's always more layers, right? There's always more layers. Me and you and everybody, and I just see that particular thing, that dynamic, and it's so prevalent, yeah, and I see everybody a little differently, but obviously, yeah, everybody has some of that, and in fact, like a lot of times, men and women do this. They'll say, "I don't know if that's true for me." And we don't either we don't know, or sometimes it's just a knee-jerk psyche defensive mechanism. We're not trying to be defensive. It's just like, no, I'm being open. This is my reality, right? And then, but it's like, no, I'm fine. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
also like, well, okay, no, I guess that is true. It does happen still, or this thing still does come up. And it's just one of those things. It's like, just realize I would say when someone tells me something, I don't usually say completely no right away. I just like, well, maybe. I don't know. Could be. There's my experience of it. All right.
That's a good practice, yeah. Because I think I'm still guilty of, that's one of the layers. Maybe I'm
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
is the defensive layer, and it's just an auto response. It's just a subconscious response of like, no, like if someone says, no, I think this is why you're doing this, or and I'm like, no, I don't think that's what it is. If that's my immediate response
Right.
without
Right.
even thinking, and
Right.
I'm guilty of that too, even so. I
Right.
like your suggestion.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm sure I do it at times too. I'm for sure. So, but okay, well, great. It's been great to have you. And if, everybody, if you want to check me out, by the way, you can go to yoursacredpurpose.com. I've got a free meditate and make money meditation, which will help open up your energy some and get you guidance on what your next steps might be in your business, and just turns on some great energy for you as well. And also you can, take advantage. I have a recorded workshop on the other side of that you can invest in if people love to utilize to understand who their ideal client avatar might be and align with that, etc. So you can check all that out. And I also have a fresh new consultation page up, a Rock Your Sacred Purpose consultation, which is a $750 value. Because honestly, there are some people I work with, one session, like big things could happen for them right away. So check that out. It's not that much, that's not 750 for your first consultation with me. So you can check it out because this is a forever green type of, or whatever forever offer. It's here on the podcast for now while it's up. So whatever it is today, it is. But like, there's a opportunity for you to get a special discount on that, I'm sure, a special price. That right now I know it's 333, so you can check that out at my website at yoursacredpurpose.com. And man, I'll tune in to you like almost nobody else. I'm sure you'll really enjoy the experience. It's a lot to download. I get a lot of people that tell me I have one of my biggest fans said like thought like when I did one of the sessions where she's like, none of that's true. Man, your brief reading was so good. This one's bad. Then she came back to me like 2 days later. She's like, oh my God, I listened back. You're right about everything. So it's so funny. So it's just a matter of being open enough. And anyway, I'm going on and on. So you can check everything out at yoursacredpurpose.com. All right. Any last words, Ben, for the audience today?
Oh God, I get the last word, huh?
Yeah.
You know, just I would just encourage people to, like I said, my whole thing is I'm trying to bring awareness to this part of the organization, a part of the industry and the self-help space. And it's in all kinds of stuff. Like every cult uses self-help tactics, and I'm seeing it in business and sales. And so you just got to be careful. I noticed a lot of the young bucks and the youngsters gravitate towards me quite a bit too. I don't, because it's a fresh topic, and they're just getting into self, they'll see guys like Andy Elliott or Wes Watson or people that are up there, promoting steroids and taking your shirt off, and a lot of, alpha promoting alpha, that stuff going on. And I talk about those guys all the time. So, I think there's a reason why young people and entrepreneurs and people are starting to kind of get back to me and comment and message me and say, hey, dude, what you're talking about is great. Guys like you, Daniel, reaching out, say, hey, I see the power in this message and the need for this message and the value in doing this. So let's get this word out there and as much help as possible. So I'm in here for the long haul. If there's anybody else that can help or has a story, something happened to you, I encourage you to talk about it. And just share your story and do what's right. Do what's right in business. Let's put it that way. Also, this would be my last
Absolutely.
message.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. So grateful you came on, Ben. It's been awesome to have you on as a guest today.
Absolutely, you bet. Thank you. I appreciate it.
And keep on tuning in, and we'll keep on rocking it here at Spiritual Rockstar Podcast, everyone. Till the next time.
For listening to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. Stay tuned for our next upcoming new episodes each Wednesday and Saturday. Please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review to help us to serve you best. As a reminder, you can get your free Meditate and Make Money meditation at www.yoursacredpurpose.com to rock your sacred purpose. Goodbye for now, everybody.